We have a roll call.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Here.
Mr. Gottman.
Here.
Dr. Kalkstein.
Here.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Here.
Mr. McIntyre.
Here.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Here.
Mr. Ritter.
Here.
Mrs. Warning.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here. Do we have any signed up to speak?
No one's-
Anybody wish to address
Yeah,
the
there's one.
board
Dave.
on agenda items?
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
All right. Come on up, state your name and address for the record, please.
David Beistel, 129 Penler Drive, Monroeville. I'll be very, very brief. I saw a quote in the paper about standard issue carry, and I see on the agenda there's a proposal to purchase 7 tasers. And I have one comment. No name tags, no tasers. I think name tag is part of any policeman's uniform. I've never seen a policeman anywhere out in the community that doesn't wear a name tag. I've been to multiple gateway functions, Veterans Day, football games, basketball games, and I've seen more than 5 police officers, and none of them wear name tags. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the board at this time on agenda items? Seeing none, moving on, section A, approval of minutes of the previously held meetings, which is a reorganization meeting from December, and a combined study session and regular board meeting also from December. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second? Second. Moved by Rick, second by Brian. Questions or comments on section A? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Motion carries. Section B, bills, financial reports, Mr. Schott.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. We have 2 parts of Section B this evening. The first part we will be reviewing is the financial reports, followed by a presentation by the district's local auditors. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approve Sections B1 list of bills, B2 monthly financial statements, and B3 budget transfers as listed in Section B at the Thursday, January 25th, 2018 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Ritchie, second by Mr. McIntyre. Questions or comments on sections B1, B2, B3? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote, please, Bonnie?
Dr. Kalkstein.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Motion carries. Mr. Schott?
Thank you, sir. At this time, I'd like to introduce Jared Ewing with the district's local auditing firm, Zelmkowski Axelrod LLC. He's here this evening to present the results of the district's audit for the 2016-2017 fiscal year.
Hi, thank you very much. Again, my name's Jared Ewing.
Jared, if you could stand behind the podium, there's a microphone there, so the
Gotcha.
rest of, thank you, appreciate
Okay.
it.
From Zelkowski Axelrod, I work primarily out of the Greensburg office and also the Pittsburgh office. We sort of combine the two and consider our Western PA office. In front of you, I have 3 packets of information. The thick one is the financial statements and notes to the financial statements. There's a smaller one, which is the single audit report, and then the third one that's a little colorful. It's just sort of an outline of what I'm going to go over tonight. Try to keep me in line, get a little excited talking about the numbers and stuff. But also, in case I forget something, there's references with page numbers in case you are looking at it later on and you have questions. You can always call me or get in touch with Paul. You can get in touch with me and we can discuss it further if you'd like. But what we have here, the financial statement audit, the thicker one, what we do is we perform an audit, and we do it in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America, and also government auditing standards, since the school district is considered a government entity, plus you receive federal funding. And we express an opinion on the financial statements in accordance with these auditing standards, and we have expressed an unmodified opinion on the school district's financial statements, which is exactly what you want to receive when you receive an audit. That's excellent. Basically, that's just saying that the financial statements are presented the way they're supposed to be presented. We're not calculating depreciation in crazy ways. We're recording receivables how we're supposed to be recording them, presenting the format of the financial statements properly. Also, if we had any audit findings, we would report this in the audit, and as I said, mentioned on here, we did not have any audit findings this year. The single audit report is required when you receive federal audit funding. You're required to have a single audit, and what we do is we look at the different federal funds that the school district receives. We rank them with regards to risk and how much you receive, and we focus our audit with compliance requirements of those particular grants, and we look at the internal control of those grants also. And in this report, we would give a report on internal control, whether we had any material weaknesses or we reported any significant deficiencies. And also, we do a report which is called the uniform guidance on the particular programs, and if we had any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, we report them to you in this report also, and we didn't have any to report to you this year. Other required communications that we're supposed to discuss with the board is if we had any difficulties when we were performing the audit. We did not have any difficulties. We also didn't have any disagreements with management, and usually this would arise is if we have a new auditing standard come down and we thought it should be presented one way and management wanted to present it another way, we would be required to discuss that with you. We didn't have any disagreements with management. Management signs a letter that we obtained before we issued the audit report, just basically saying they've reviewed everything and they agree with the way it's presented. That has been signed and received by us. And also, we're required to let you know if we knew management consulted other auditors with regards to implementation of auditing standards. Some people would say, well, how would we know? Because the other auditor would be required to call us and ask us. And usually this would be opinion chopping. You know, maybe management's doing something a little dicey and they're like, well, we'll consult a different auditor to see if they'll give us a different opinion. They would be required to call us just to get all the information, but that didn't occur. So we're required to make you aware of that. New standards, usually these don't impact you too much, but on page 31 of the financial statement audit, we list the new standards in there. And there was one that impacted you this year. It was GASB statement number 75, and it was the adoption of the financial reporting for post-employment benefits other than pensions. Most school districts will be adopting this next year. However, with the timing of the audit valuations, it made sense to adopt it this year. And we did have to restate your statement in that position, and you'll see further notice of that on pages 44 and 46. We have a detailed note of the OPEBs. It expanded a lot this year. It's similar to the pensions. And also, we detail the restatement of net position on there. It's not considered an audit finding. It's a new adoption of an accounting standard, but it is something that you should be aware of as you review the financial statements. Beginning of the financial statement, on pages 1 and 2 is the auditor's report of the financial statements. This is where we basically give you our unmodified opinion. Pages 3 through 10 are the management's discussion and analysis, and this is where Paul has sort of analyzed the financial statements, looked at the increases and decreases, and gives his opinion and it sort of explains, you know, hey, this is why this increased this year. This is why we have this expenditure this year. It's something that we're not allowed to put in our part of the audit report. However, management has a bit more flexibility. We do review it to make sure it makes sense and everything, but I just wanted to make you aware of that. When I review financial statements, I like to pull out that section first and just get a nice overview before I look at the rest of the financial statements. The financial statements are made up of two parts, basically. The government-wide financial statements and the fund financial statements. The fund financial statements are on pages 13 through 22, and this is your general fund, your food service fund, your fiduciary funds, sort of the way you budget, the way you operate. The government-wide financial statements is where we take those, we combine all the government funds and the proprietary funds and show the school district as a whole. We add in any of your long-term debt, we add a few more receivables, treat taxes receivable a little bit differently. It's more treated as a business type, it's full accrual for the government-wide statements. And we also have reconciliations in there too to show you how things change. statement and net position wise. The notes of the financial statements are on pages 23 through 46. Again, the big change is the new OPEB standard that was adopted on pages 44 and 46. Required supplementary schedules are on pages 46 and 51. And these are primarily statements that are required due to reporting pension and the OPEB, just additional schedules that they like to call required supplementary information. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me on it as you review them. The single audit report, the smaller report, this is where we look at the federal funding. There's 2 letters in this report. It's the auditor's report in accordance with government auditing standards on pages 3 and 4. If we had any findings, material weaknesses, they would be reported there. And then the auditor's report on compliance for each major federal program, that's on page 5 and 7. Again, that's focused on the major federal programs that are tested. Pages 8 and 9 is the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, and these are the awards that we are made aware of that the school district received during the year. This is filed with the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. Okay, it just gives you detail. Usually the years overlap. There'll be some receivables outstanding from the prior years or maybe some deferred revenue that we have to deal with. But you can see the different programs that you've received, and they're pretty much consistent year to year. And once in a while we'll have a new one pop up, but they're pretty consistent year to year. On page 10 is just a required note to the CFA, the Schedule of Federal Awards. And as you'll see, this year we tested the child nutrition cluster. That's basically different commodities and the supplementals you receive for the National School Lunch Program. These vary each year which ones we're required to test. The federal government sets it up that way, so we just don't focus on the same program each year. It's a little bit of risk-based. Okay. On page 12 is a schedule of findings and question costs. It sounds a little bit scarier than what it is. It's actually sort of just a summary of the audit reports. It lets you know we issued a modified report. Again, it goes over, if any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses were reported. It lets you know what our major program was tested, whether you were a low-risk auditee, and we would list any findings that we had there this year. And again, we didn't have any. It was an excellent audit. It went very, very swimmingly this year, as we like to say. But that's it. Are there any questions that I can answer for you? I'll make notes of, and I can get back to you if you have any.
Anybody have any questions?
Kudos, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, not so much a question, but maybe just, that's a lot of information to throw out. This is essentially a report card on Mr. Shaw.
Well,
To simplify. Yeah. And if it was a grade, I would say he looked like he got at least a B.
He gets new swim trunks swimmingly.
Plus, Mr. Shaw.
Well, as you review it, if you have any questions, my contact information's on the back of this report here, and also the engagement partner who works out of Pittsburgh. If you want to talk to him specifically, feel free to call us anytime. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. That concludes section B.
Thank you, Mr. Schott. Nice job, Mr. Schott.
Thank you.
Section C, items tabled, we don't have anything. Section D, personnel agenda, Trish?
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors accepts and approves the personnel agenda items 1 through 7 as listed in Section D for the regular board meeting of Thursday, January 25th, 2018. We do have a few items that have been added since the study agenda. On Section 2, under leaves of absences, we have added one. If you'll note it, it's notated by a star. Under transfers, we have also added 2 transfers per the collective bargaining agreement. Under employment for custodians, we have a recommendation from the Facilities Department to add Mr. Stengel. And we also have an additional issuance for supplemental.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rucci, second by Mr. McIntyre. Questions or comments on section B?
Maybe just, can you clarify what from substitute custodian to temporary full-time custodian, what does that actually mean in real
It
language?
has to do with further collective bargaining agreement. Whenever a position opens, we put it up for bid. If a person is on leave, under their collective bargaining agreement, instead of a substitute, they have a right to bid into a temporary position.
Okay.
So again, it's just through the collective bargaining
Sure,
agreement.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Anybody read it? Pretty good? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, please, Bonnie?
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell. Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman. Dr. Kalkstein.
Motion
much.
carries.
Thank you.
Section E, conferences or conventions, we have none. Section F, administrative resolutions. Mr. Short. Dr. Short.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Under item number 1, student adjudication, as I referenced last week, Gateway Board of School Directors accepts the agreement between the Gateway School District and Student A, permanently expelling the grade 12 student from the Gateway School District as identified in the agreement. We go to item number 2. Dr. Rossi.
We have 5 textbooks on the approved for 30-day public display for the science curriculum.
Item number 3. Dr. Shaky.
We have 2 facility rental agreements, one for the Monroe Art Council and also the Catholic Church.
Item number 4. Dr. Shaky.
And we also have one overnight excursion request for Mari Carey at the LA Business Competition in Hershey, PA.
Mr. Schott.
Thank you, Dr. Short. Item number 5 is the approval of the general fund budget tax rates not to exceed the index, which is 2.8% for the 2018-2019 fiscal year. Next item is approval of advertisement for bids for various school supplies for the 2018-2019 fiscal year as depicted. We have approval of Ariston Architecture to perform new entrance architectural design work in the amount of $13,050 as depicted in Exhibit A. Next item is approval of the continued membership in the Allegheny Intermediate Unit Number 3's Joint Purchasing Program for the 2018-2019 fiscal year. Myself will be the district's primary representative, and Mrs. Patricia Crump will be the district's alternate representative, and this is depicted in Exhibit B. Next item, acceptance of district donations received during the 17-18 fiscal year, as depicted below. EduLink Incorporated, $500. Bruce E. Dice and Associates, $1,970. And it's just to state, was a partial donation. We'll see this again in the future for the remaining 50%. Spitzer Auto World, Monrovia LLC, Robert L. Tomasin III, $25,000. And Sleep Center of Greater Pittsburgh, Elizabeth Myers, $315.
Special education.
Next item is a new item that was added to the agenda, Special Education Settlement Agreement. Approve the ODR file number 17355-1516-AS settlement agreement of $4,140 on terms and conditions negotiated by Special Education Council. And next item number 11, which is also added after the study session agenda, is approval of structural engineering professional service fees for the Capital Reserve Fund for design, bid, and permit phases of the Gateway High School Stadium Wall Remediation Project for 2018-2019 fiscal year in the amount of $33,750 and as depicted in Exhibit C. And the final item, item number 12, which was also added after study session meeting, is approval of advertisement for bids for Capital Reserve Fund for the Gateway High School Stadium Wall Remediation Project for 2018-2019 fiscal year.
Questions or comments on any of the above
Yeah,
subjects?
may I,
Yes.
Mr. President?
We need a motion and a second first.
Oh, that's right.
I'd like to move to approve all but or item number 7.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve everything except number 7.
Correct.
Can we discuss number 7? We don't approve it?
Oh, we can vote all that out and then discuss number 7.
Motion by Mr. Rucci, second by Mr. McIntyre. Do we have a roll call vote on that?
Yes, yes. Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell. Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Motion carries. Okay.
So does that mean I can't ask question on number 8 or number 7 at
No,
the moment?
seven.
You have to make a motion for number 7. and then we
We
can
gotta make a
discuss.
motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Motion and a second. Questions, comments, number 7?
I'm sorry, the motion was Steve and second
Second
was
by Rick.
Mr. Gottman.
Rick. Brian.
I'm sorry.
Stealing his thunder.
Number 7 is approval of artists and architecture to perform new entrance architectural design work.
Okay, my question is, we discussed at the study session the status of the bid that was going to go out for new architecture for the district. Can you just tell us where we are with that before we approve this?
Yes, I actually met with Mr. Schott earlier in the week, I want to say Monday or Tuesday. He presented to me a packet of information related to the bid process for a new architect on record for the district. Mr. Schott, if you could enlighten the board.
Sure. We are prepared to go out as previously directed by the board for a request for proposals. Again, not a bid, it's a professional service. The intent would be, again, we will be approving tonight, or have approved, the bids for supplies. We're going to, because advertising is expensive, I'm doing a combination bid that's going to hit the papers next Friday the 2nd. It's going to be for supplies for 18-19 fiscal year, refuse services that was previously approved, and also for RFP for architect of record for the district. So again, we have specifications prepared for all those areas. They will be going out, advertised, just like we advertise Post-Gazette, Greensburg Tribune Review, and district's website for all 3 of those areas.
Ballpark figure, how long of a process would you anticipate that being before we come back with choices for the board for architect of record?
Well, we'll be doing a 3-week advertisement of that. And I think this kind of ties back into the reason for continuing on with Arison, be able to address some projects that we would like to possibly address during the summer months. It's going to take several months. But by the time we advertise, we get responses, we evaluate responses. Similar to how we've done this in the past, we've typically invited a number of firms to come in and interviewed them, had discussions, and really depending on how that falls with the next board meeting, been able to
References,
award.
looking at
Yes,
projects.
there's a lot that goes into the process. It does take time.
Okay, and along the time question, the RFP was requested by the board and approved by the board in November, and we're looking at, when were you saying we're actually going to put it out?
Next Friday.
Next
Can you explain maybe that process and why that takes 3 months?
Well, that's just how this happened in this particular case. And that's the reason why this firm was brought forward, because we knew we had a firm that was available to us to address some issues that we have.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I would like, instead of in your board report, Mr. O'Donnell, can you maybe speak to number 10, or I'm sorry, number 11? The structural engineering services for the wall remediation?
Gateway High School Stadium. The wall was examined by structural engineers. It was found to be unsafe at 2 particular areas. So we've invited them to come in and describe for us what work would need to be done. If you think of it, both ends of that 350, 450, 400-foot wall need to be repaired. So we were asking them to go out and research the cost, the estimated cost for that repair. And then we also asked them to provide us with estimated cost and bid specifications to replace the entire wall. And that's what we're asking them to do at this point. It's a safety issue for openers.
And for the public, I call it a retaining wall, but it's actually a poured concrete wall that's attached to bleachers at the high school stadium. This was part of the initial construction of the high school stadium, probably mid to late 50s. So, you're looking at an area that's probably 60-plus years of age, and it's beginning to buckle a little bit. It's not in any imminent danger of falling down. However, given that we're coming out of another freeze-thaw cycle here, the engineer deemed that, in all likelihood, that we need to do something by this summer.
Sounds like me, 60 years of age, showing wear and tear, in need of repair.
Freeze and thaw.
But yes, that wall is, it needs to be rescued. I've been
Yes,
in and out of
yes.
that a bunch of times.
When you
football
look at
players,
it,
track, everyone
absolutely.
comes out, it needs to be repaired. It's really pushing away from the wall, and something needs to be done, so why not do it now rather than later?
Including the existing railings that are not only on top of the walkway, but also as you walk up the ramp area towards the tunnels in the locker room.
The Building and Grounds Committee spent probably 2-3 hours with the engineer and management regarding this, and we recommend that we go forward with this second phase of the process.
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
Just real quick, just touching on that, that's obviously a project that's urgent, needs to be dealt with quickly. We're looking back at item number 7, which is actually the one thing up for vote right now. Is there any reason why this particular request for work can't wait for the RFP? Is there any sense of urgency to make the front of Ramsey and Ramsey and Evergreen and UP
I think
prettier before we get the RFP back?
I think I could respond to that, Rick. The Buildings and Grounds Committee again met on another occasion and laid out a series of initiatives that we brought to the board and discussed, I guess, 2 meetings ago, if my memory serves me correctly. Those included securing architectural renderings to change the entrances at 3 elementary schools, and the back entrance to the high school where a lot of people come in and our dumpsters are located, et cetera. This will take us 2-3 months to get the renderings up, then to decide on whether or not we want those renderings, then to put them out to bid to see if we want to include them in the budget going forward in the summer. So if we delay this, we probably wouldn't be able to get the renderings, move forward with the bidding, and get the work done and scheduled for the summer in time.
So conceivably, it would be pushed to next summer, or the following
Yeah,
summer?
right, it would be.
All right, is there is there a sense of urgency that
There's no
that
sense of
would be
urgency.
a problem?
Yeah, no sense of urgency. But the Buildings and Grounds Committee has had, I don't know, probably a half a dozen or a dozen meetings that have been directed toward upgrading facilities. So we did $3+ million last year. It's prudent for us to select items now for summer work.
I got you.
Okay? These are relatively minor projects, and these are not going to be millions of dollars. But our facilities, particularly the ones that are in question, are, I guess, help me here, 50 or 60 years old. Evergreen, UP, and I don't, the back area to the entrance to the high school, which is really sort of an abomination, should be addressed. We don't think it's going to be extraordinarily expensive, but we're going to bring it back to the board once we get A, a look at what they suggest, and then B, put it out, drop the specs, and then bring it back to the board. And it'll be part of a more comprehensive set of initiatives that the Buildings and Ground, Valerie, George, administration bring forward for capital projects in the coming year. We don't see anything major in the coming year other than 2 items that we've discussed. One is the wall, and the other is the dehumidifier and heater in the swimming pool area. We haven't really made up our minds with respect to what we're going to do to that, hence we haven't brought that initiative forward. But even those 2 are estimated to be probably around $1 million. so a third of what we spent last year. And there might be an alternative to the dehumidifier and the heater that was raised, and we haven't explored it. I don't know if Bob raised this or you did, and that was we might be able to change out the parts. Is that your idea?
Yeah, mine.
Yours and Bob's. We might be able to change out the parts. That piece of equipment, first of all, it's as big as this room. That piece of equipment is 22 years old. It's like the roof's end of its useful life. It's been breaking, we've been patching it together, but one possibility might be to go in and sort of swap out the guts. If we do that, then we may not have to replace the exterior, the cabinet itself. But again, remember, this cabinet is large. The external piping, and we don't have to take down the wall, the high school wall, to bring that piece of equipment in. Now, having said that, I think George and Val and Bob have to meet with somebody who's an expert in that area to see if that's in fact a viable option. If it is, my guess, and it's only a guess, is that would reduce the expense of that particular project. Now, it broke down about 2-3 weeks ago. That pool facility is used all the time, year-round, and that piece of equipment has to be operating and in good shape. So we'll meet on that when Bob arranges a time for, there are very few firms that build or make this piece of equipment. So we'll bring somebody in, meet with them, see what our options are, get a better handle on cost, and then make a determination, come back to the board. Do we want to replace it? Do we want to Band-Aid it? Okay?
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make one other comment. We had a safety meeting this afternoon, and one of the discussions was the entrance to Ramsey. Mr. Brown, myself, and George, and several other, Mr. DiVicente was there. We were talking about, Dr. Short even had mentioned it, that the traffic drop-off and pickup for the students at Ramsey with all the cement in the front, that they're looking to do more like a, what did they call that, George?
Like a turnaround.
The Governor Drive, yes. So that would also fit in with this design work that they're looking to do for safety reasons. So all this is tying into doing mostly for safety and for upgrading of the building. So that was another part of what we had discussed today.
Let me also add to that, because this is important. I think the general flavor of the board, because I've not heard anything to the contrary, is to maintain our elementary facilities. They're in good shape. We air condition them. We put a new roof on Ramsey, new HVAC system at Ramsey, so on and so forth. I'm certain that the president's going to appoint a committee, or it'll be a committee of the whole, to develop a master plan for the campus. But I don't expect any major changes to our elementary programs, with the possible exception of Ramsey. And we've talked very briefly about blowing out the back end of Ramsey. If you've been through the Ramsey facility, there's a goodly portion of it, maybe 5, 6, 7 potential classrooms space back there that hasn't been used in years. They're locker rooms, showers, bathrooms, they're just not used. Now, the roof covers it, we heat and we air condition it. So two of the most significant component parts of creating new classroom space has always been taken. But I think that decision has to come out of the board, in my own opinion, once he appoints a committee, if it's a committee of the whole, to develop a master plan for the district, and it's going to focus primarily, I believe, on this campus. So that's why we're making these relatively minor investments in upgrading the elementary facilities. Okay?
My not even objection, but my question wasn't about the upgrades to the buildings, but just with us continuing to spend money with the architect of record when there's been an RFP request from the board for 3 months, and that was my only.
No, and it's a
concern.
good question. One other reason that prompted the use of this particular firm, first of all, they have a good reputation. Bob's worked with them. They've done specs for roofs and a number of other things. These are really small projects, okay, very small projects. And we have a credit with them, 20 $12,000. For these small projects, and you'll see that reflected here, we get a 10% discount on those. Now, they do not mark those projects up, okay, in order to compensate for the 10. And the reason I say that is that Bob and our committee looks at that, and you know, we have a pretty good understanding that these are in-market numbers. So this is a reputable firm doing right for us. And we're capturing that money. There's no other way that we can capture it. So there's a few dollars left to do it. And that's part of our reason. Okay?
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Just so everybody knows, I think our newest school is Ramsey, and that was built in 1970.
Yeah.
That's our newest school. That's how old our schools are. And the facades that we're talking about is a way to bring the schools up to current looks, attract people to come here, so if they're looking at a house here, it'll make the school look attractive also. Basically what it is. Any other comments, questions? Bonnie, can we have a roll call?
This is on item number
Number
7 only.
seven.
Okay. Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning. Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Motion carries. Section G, resolutions presented by board members.
We have to do the remaining items in Section F?
We voted on that. We did that before.
No, we voted on the, to separately vote on number 7.
But before that.
The first vote was for everything but seven.
Oh, okay, everything but 7,
Stay
okay.
with us, Bonnie.
I'm sorry.
It's a fast-moving
All right.
board.
All right.
That's my fault.
Oh, it's Rick's.
Whereas the Gateway School Board has approved and hired a full-time police force commencing in July 2016, and the Gateway School Board approved a $9,000 budget as part of the standard issue equipment for police officers as part of its 2016 budget. However, said expenditure was not made due to a tentative agreement that the tasers would be donated by the county, and obviously that offer was withdrawn. It is the purpose of the school board to preserve a safe school and environment for students, staff, and visitors, as well as provide equipment necessary for police department to function to the best of its ability. Now therefore be it resolved and enacted this 24th day of January 2018, the Gateway Board approves an allocation of funds to purchase 7 model Axon tasers in the amount of $8,600 in order to provide the Gateway police officers the necessary equipment that they have requested in order to provide the officers with a non-lethal weapon option in accordance with the standard equipment for police officers in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. O'Donnell, second by Ms. Rucci. Any questions or comments on this resolution? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
No.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein.
No.
Mr. Lapsevich.
No.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries.
Comments from residents. I'm sorry, do we have any more school board member resolutions? Seeing none. Comments from residents on non-agenda items. Is there anybody that signed up?
No.
Is there anybody at this time that wishes to address? Please come up, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Ken Eagle. I live on Wiltshire Circle. The phone system that we have, I understand, was upgraded, or we switched somebody when receiving calls from University Park. Our principal, when she calls, it comes up Virginia Hanlon. So unless, yeah, that's what it comes up on the caller ID. The school nurse, when they call, comes up just as export PA, like there's nothing deciphering that it is the school that is calling. I'm wondering what, I brought this to an attention.
Step that they need to do, and I can talk to Mr. Brown.
Okay, because I've brought this up numerous times to
Not that
let people know, but it's,
I
like,
know-
if
I
the
know what
school
you're
nurse is
talking about.
calling, I'm like, I don't know this number, I don't answer. If it says University Park, I answer, I have kids there, so it's becoming an issue with parents just having issues.
No, thank you for the information.
Thank you.
Anybody else at this time wish to address the board on any subject? Okay, administrative and board reports. We'll start with Dr. Chaikin.
Nothing at this time.
Dr. Rossi.
Remind parents that kindergarten registration is open and all the information can be found on our website.
Thank you. Rashad.
Nothing further, thank you.
Ms. Crum.
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Brown. Okay, Mr. Ritter.
Sure, a couple things. During our previous study session, I asked Bob Brown and the Buildings and Grounds team if they would provide a bit of an update on any of the items that we worked on over the summer that had not yet been completed. I think I saw an email a couple of days ago that one of those items were completed. It was the Gateway Cafe. So, Bob, could you just stand up and give us 30 seconds and just give a shout out to the great work that was done on the floor and what the cafe looks like now and where it is and what it's used for?
Well, as you stated, the cafe training center is open and operating. There was many items that, due to the funding that was received later, they were able to add donations of a new floor, which some of the teachers, security staff, all pitched in and actually
Volunteer.
installed it
Volunteer effort.
on their own time.
Yep.
Looks great. So they are open for business, and I'm sure everybody will appreciate what all those folks do to help our special needs kids get ready for life. So that's something we're all very proud of that we're able to make happen. So thanks to all of them.
Well, congratulations. Thank you very kindly. Appreciate that. Okay, number 2, the Commonwealth Education Blueprint Summit occurred on November 29th and December 1st of last year. This was hosted by the folks at PSBA, the Pennsylvania School Board Association, and they had some people come out from various school districts and talk about a few things, collect some ideas, get some tensions, some input from people across the state so that they could develop a blueprint. Well, they collected all those notes. They're mashing them together right about now. And over the next couple weeks and months, they're going to reveal that to folks across the state. So when they come to our area, I'll let us all know we should all go out there and, hear what the latest thinking is regarding a education blueprint for our state and give our feedback into that exercise. And that's where I met Lena Hanna. And in a moment or two, I'm going to ask her to step up and give her background regarding the advocacy services that she can provide to our board. So number 3, also the Allegheny School Board members are invited to go to the Allegheny Intermediate Unit on February 22nd. There's going to be a legislative forum update. This is a great chance for us to hear from experts, including our members of the General Assembly, our senators, and our representative as to what's going on with respect to legislation. So some of the issues that the audience usually asks about are economic issues, personnel issues, legislative updates, drug and health issues, opioid issues, safety issues, litigation issues, education issues, tax, pensions, wages, health insurance, property taxes, all those things get tossed out. So please, this is a great opportunity to hear from the experts and ask our questions. So I sent us an email on that, and if we could all go out there, that would be great. Next, Lena Hanna is the PSBA, that's the Pennsylvania School Board Association Advocacy Ambassador for our section of the state. She's going to give us about 5 to 7 minutes and talk to us about what advocacy is, what PSBA does on our behalf, and how we operate with them in order to take some of the issues that we find here in our local district to Harrisburg and help hash those things out. So Lena, thank you for coming.
Thank That is a wonderful introduction. I hope I can deliver all of those goods within 5 to 7 minutes, and if not, my email's at the bottom, so if there's some kind of question that I don't answer or respond to clearly or give you the correct information, please feel free to reach out to me. I did place a card at your seats just to make sure that I do give you this in advance, and it really kind of talks briefly about what we do as advocacy ambassadors, and there are 6 of us. I do want to also let you know that I am a current school board member myself. I'm a member of the South Fayette School District. I've been serving for the last 8 years there. So I do understand your role, and I appreciate it greatly. And I also understand the role of that superintendent too. So what's helped me, even when I'm actually engaging with the legislators, is the fact that I am kind of an elected official. So they kind of appreciate that too. And so it's opened doors in lots of different directions. And so PSBA has asked us to kind of really be people that kind of meet with the districts. So I either go into a district, I meet with the superintendent, I meet with some of the board, I come to board meetings, and then I subsequently go to the legislators in your area. So I've been to Senator Brewster's office. I have not been to Representative Markushek's office yet because I have 125 districts. I have 46 representatives and 11 senators. So a lot to get around to, but it's been good, and I really enjoy it. And some of the things that are currently trending that you've probably been seeing some emails and alerts that have come out are really on Senate Bill 2, and which is the ESA savings vouchers. And then also you've been seeing some information more recently on House Bill 1213 that deals with things that are directly, that restricts districts the rights to appeal properties that are underassessed. So 2 big legislative things that we have that we kind of ask you to engage in. What I find, just today I received an email from someone just asking me for more clarification. That's kind of my role too. So whether it's a legislator that reaches out to me, whether it's a district that reaches out to me, whether it's a board member, I try to, either answer that question. If not, I try to facilitate it with someone that can, just to kind of be that liaison all the way around. I don't claim to be an expert in any of it. I claim to really just kind of be someone that's a good resource that I can direct you to the experts. So I'm here for that. There's also, as a board member, there's things that I kind of gather that I think when as an ambassador, I gather and I think about it as being a board member. So one of the things that I will share with you just kind of off the cuff with that is, so Representative Dan Miller has a really good event that's coming up on March 22nd and 23rd, and it really, and I'll actually pass it and we'll make copies of it if anybody would want it. But it actually talks about Secretary of Education Rivera's coming in, and then the Human Services, our director too for the state's coming in to actually talk about mental health issues and the things around that, and it's free. So those are the kinds of resources that I kind of am finding that I can kind of share with districts, and I kind of look at it from a board member's eye to see like, wow, this would be a great resource, and it's at really no cost. So the role has really kind of helped me do that, and it's also kind of helped me engage on all different levels. Does anybody have any questions or?
Does the board have any questions? Should we invite Lena back at some time? Should we meet on a teleconference call? In other words, are there issues churning in the back of our brains that we know are beyond us right now, and we need some help? Maybe, for example, with the opioid crisis, this is one I'm thinking about. Gateway District alone can't solve it. There is no district alone that can solve it. Is there something we might be able to do to collaborate? Well, that's over and above what we can do alone. So we might need an advocate to take this question back to Harrisburg and have all the school districts think it through based on their geographic location, the amount of traffic that comes through, and come up with some sort of a model battle plan so that each one of us can at least look at what's happening in other places and tailor those methods for our local districts. So that's what I'm trying to do, is lay out for you what services she might be able to offer us.
And I will tell you, there's all different things that people have asked me, and even if it's not kind of under my umbrella, I don't say it's not under my umbrella and I move you on. I say, okay, let me find out how I can help you. Because that's really what I see my role being, is someone that can kind of, just like Mr. Ritter's saying, try to reach out into those all different areas and try to make sure that things that involve education advocacy, we're really touching. Some of the things that are coming up, and you had asked me, John, to mention that, would be the board president's panel's coming up, and that is coming up from January 29th to 31st. If you haven't registered for that, it is free if you have an all-access membership. If not, it's $25. The next event from that would be the members' roundtable reception, and that is free completely. If you go on the PSB website, there's lots of information about that. PSB has a lot of really good resources there. And then the last is the Advocacy Day that's coming on April 16th, and I would ask you to join me and go up to, actually, Harrisburg and meet with our local state senators and representatives and have just really like one-to-one kind of discussions.
Face-to-face, sit down in their
Yeah,
offices.
sit-downs within their offices,
handshake.
Yep.
Pour our hearts out.
So-
Yep. Well, very good. Thank you very, very
Sure,
kindly.
my pleasure.
Before you sit down, I have
Yeah,
just one really simple request that I'm absolutely certain you'll be able to handle.
sure.
Could you get the State House to pass the budget on time?
Oh my gosh, I would love that because
By the
being a
way,
board member myself, I
if
understand.
they're not
Sure.
busy.
Are you saying, no, you don't think you can get that?
I don't want to, I don't want to deliver or promise on that one that I don't think I'm not sure I can deliver.
Just thought I'd ask.
I know, I agree though.
I got a question.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, welcome to our school district.
Thank you. I
Also,
appreciate
the question John asked you about the drug problems,
that. The opioids, uh-huh.
are you asked about them anywhere else except our school? Is there,
Oh, I'm asked everywhere.
okay,
To be honest with you, I was just at a state representative's big event today in Bell Vernon, and they had a really nice forum that they had a lot of students that came up and actually presented from all the districts that were around there. And every single student talked about that was one of the issues that they had within their district is the opioid crisis. And how then the members of the audience were asking, well, how do we help, how do we engage with that? So it's no one's, I don't think, in isolation from it, to be honest with you. I think it's definitely something that's universal. But I will tell you, there's a lot of legislators out there that are hosting opioid events. So, I mean, if that's something that you'd want me to like kind of even compile for you so that you guys have an idea of what ones are really being out there and what local legislators are doing that so that you can attend them. I know Star Rocks is having one coming up the 31st of January.
yeah. The only reason I asked that question is because I'm on board because I lost my son 7 years ago with drug overdose.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
And I was just wondering if we're having that through our district.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, I will tell you, a dear friend of mine lost her son last February to one too. So it is everywhere, and, the students there were really talking about ways that they thought, they could help too.
All right, so Governor Wolf came out about 2 weeks ago and he declared a 90-day
Yes, he
state
did.
of emergency here in Pennsylvania for the opioid crisis. And he laid out about 9 different angles or battle plans or bullet points regarding the opioid crisis. So what I'm saying is, did any of those bullet points carry forward what the board of directors could offer to the governor so that we could, get our bullet point in there? So what I'd like to find a way to do is somehow teach the kids in school about opioids in such a way that when they get out of school and get freedom, they graduate, they go to school, they're on their own, they're not in the parents' home anymore, they're out there on their own, and they begin to experiment, that they somehow remember something that they got in school that says, no, not for me, not now, I'm just not gonna do it. Because what happens is, we have a nice umbrella of protection here. We've got people in the hall, we've got friends, we've got schoolmates, kids on the soccer team that they're accountable to. When you get out there and you get more freedom than you can handle, you start to do things that are stupid. And so the people that often experiment are the ones that get out of school 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, and then something goes wrong and we lose them. So how do we fix that? We don't know. But let's see if there's a way we could change that. I don't know what that is, but that would be a great issue for us to.
Well, and I'll leave you with this note on that, because one of the things that PSBA is asking me to do is to bring local legislators within your district. So if there's local legislators out there already that are around here that are working on those issues, and you want to have, a discussion specifically about that, maybe that can be something as a way that we bring someone in and talks, that's a legislator that you can say, what are you doing?
I got the cookies, that's all we
That's perfect. But that's, if you're interested in something like
Let's
that,
have
that's
them.
something that we can do as well,
Let's
too.
do it.
Or I can do as well with you. And we have a really great toolkit that really kind of goes through the whole process and really kind of shows you the steps, and there's letters that are already written for you to exchange out, so. It's just another service that we're trying to offer, just to make sure that the legislators understand, right, the constraints that you're all under.
I don't understand, but they can react, they can enable us to do what we decide we want to do.
Sure, absolutely.
They have a part to play, but we have to lead.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very kindly, Leanne. I
Sure,
appreciate it.
sure. Anybody else?
Thank you for all of this, Scotty. I have one more item, and I'd like to go to Dr. Jesse for a second here. We did have a little bit of an ad hoc intergovernmental committee meeting with some folks from the municipality. It wasn't actually a meeting, it was an informational session. So is it okay if I let the folks know that, there was no voting or anything going on, no formal, discussions? It was an informational session to try to ask, what other things that we need to find out about, what are the roadblocks, what do we need to clarify? And after we, met for a good while, we thought it might be good to bring the folks of the municipality together and try to hear from them, let them know what our thinking is, and maybe put a session on, an informational session for them as well. So those things are being planned right now, but still, there's no votes have taken place, no actions have taken place. We're still in the informational stage.
And I think Dr. Constantine, as chair of
The intergovernmental?
may be able to respond to that during his time.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, thank you. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roder. Valerie?
Thank you. First off, I want to bring to light that we will be having a policy meeting on Tuesday, January 30th, here at 6 o'clock. It's open to the public. We will be discussing admission prices for the sporting events. Also, we're going to be looking at the sale of outdated equipment, and we're going to be looking at the 2.0 requirements. So.
Can you repeat that time again, please?
6 o'clock.
Do you know there's a contract meeting the same night?
Dr. Short picked that date. So, Dr. Short.
I just had the 15th on my calendar.
We'll clarify that later.
So will it still be the 30th?
For now, yeah.
Okay. So public is invited, any input. This is, we're looking for solutions to issues that we have run into. So that will be, like I said, Tuesday, January 30th at 6 o'clock here in the boardroom. Also, Dr. Jess, I know you're going to be talking about the intergovernmental informal meeting that we had. I just want to say thank you to the municipality. It was a very informative meeting. A lot of good talk back and forth. This is what we need to do to bring back the togetherness between the municipality and the school district. And I'll, let Jesse finish talk a bit. And I'm not passing my cough around. I don't know what happened with Steve, but I did. But I do thank everyone for asking, how I was feeling and everything. Whatever's going on.
As long as it stops right there at that corner.
Yeah, that's what I'm
all I gotta
saying.
say.
It just seems like it hangs on, and I have to commend these teachers, staff, everyone at all the schools. When I go to them, they're walking around with their Clorox wipes. I mean, kids are coughing, everything, and thank you guys for, every day that you're in there. And on Tuesday, we had a special honor that was given to a senior here at Gateway, Alex Leisenring. He is a senior here at Gateway that's fighting a battle of cancer. And he was presented with the game football from the Whitfield Championship between Gateway and Penn Trafford. It was a surprise to him, but that was one of the things that he has on his list that he wants to see happen. And the other thing is that he wants to be able to walk graduation. I have to commend our staff, especially our student body. It was so overwhelming to see a child that is going through so much, to have such a smile and just so excited to be taken in under everyone's wing. And thank you to everyone that participated, especially to our student section. I mean, it was just unbelievable. Like they said, no one beats a Gator, and we're telling Alex no one's going to beat him, and we're going to get through this all together. So thank you, everyone, like I said, that participated. And Mr. Dice, I forgot to thank you for your donation to the football team. I felt really bad because when the bill did come in, Mr. Dice did tell me that he was going to have to be eating the hot dogs until the bill gets paid off. So,
That's true.
So I do appreciate it, and hopefully we're coming towards the end.
Gourmet hot dogs. Gourmet hot dogs.
Gourmet hot dogs. Okay, but thank you again. I appreciate everything everybody is doing for the district and all that. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Val. George?
Yeah, I'll be short. I just want to have fast recovery for my wife that's sick, and also my best friend that I grew up, Ricky Cruz. I wish him nothing but the best. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Steve?
Just a couple of quick things. One, first of all, thanks to my committee. For those in the public who don't know, we meet regularly. That's Val and George, and Brian's going to join us. Hopefully, we can schedule things at a time that works for him. There's just a ton of work that they put in, and I appreciate every bit of it. And the other thing that I'd like to raise to Dr. Short, and that's a request. Do you think that it would be reasonable and possible to arrange for either Dr. Chakey or Dr. Philip Woods, or both of them, to come in and give us an update on the GAP Committee's initiatives at the next study session or study session after that?
Just to provide you and the public with an update, we've been meeting regularly with Dr. Woods. In fact, one of his visits was today, and we did some walkthroughs at Gateway Middle School. And he is wrapping up his assessment, basically 6 months' worth of work. The idea that we have moving forward, the plan would be that he is going to review that information, disseminate that to our faculty first during an in-service in February. Then we're going to come back the following week with an open public meeting in the LGI.
It's great.
So
Yeah, that's super.
would that be suffice to do it in that venue?
That would be fine.
Okay.
And I'm hopeful that they would be able to tell us the count in the cohort.
Absolutely.
For
We
those-
have all that data.
Great. For the public and those who don't, and the new board members, we've identified a cohort, or they have identified a cohort, a group of individuals that we're going to follow through their time at Gateway to determine whether or not the strategies that are being developed by Dr. Chakey and Bill and Dr. Woods are making a difference. And that was Mary Beth, a year and a half's worth of work from Mary Beth and Scotty and myself and Stephanie Byrne. So just I'm excited to hear the follow-up, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Dr. Palestine?
Yeah, just to touch upon what John mentioned about the Intergovernmental Committee, we did have an informational session meeting strictly regarding the rezoning of Gateway Middle School. We wanted to see where both sides were at. And the goal of this board, and specifically the Intergovernmental Committee meeting and the Municipality Intergovernmental Committee meeting, is to hold a public meeting. That date, time, location has yet to be determined. As soon as it is, we'll disseminate that to the public. I'd also like to take a moment to mention, I didn't know this, that it was School Director Recognition Month. I've been on the board for 2 months, and it feels like in many ways 2 years. There's a considerable amount of time and effort that goes into this work. So I want to thank everybody here, previous board directors. I want to thank them for their service. Specifically, guys that have been on the board for multiple terms. I know, Scotty, you've been on the board for 17 years.
Too long.
Steve, 30, 40 years. You can keep that to yourself. No, but in all seriousness, I want to thank everybody, because we all did this. We all took this position because we care about the community. We care about this district, and that's why we're all here. So thanks, everybody.
Mr. Gottman?
Yeah, I got two things. One, I just want to send our thoughts, prayers, and condolences to the families of Marshall County High School down in Kentucky. It was a terrible event that happened, and I know that they will pull through it and come out stronger than ever. And the other thing is, I kind of want to keep up with the tradition that I guess was started maybe 4 years ago, and recognizing our wonderful this month's selection comes from Mr. Kolerek's class from Gateway Middle School, and they are all submitted from 8th graders. And it's just amazing seeing the progress of what artwork comes from kindergarten up to 8th grade. It's amazing.
You're in the same chair
Yes,
that the
right.
former board director made those comments with. There you go.
Thank you, Brian. Mr. McIntyre.
Just briefly, Mr. Gottman and myself had the opportunity to go to a new and veteran school board training session at the AIU last Saturday. It was long. I think the brief introduction I clocked at 45 minutes. I think she stopped just short of describing all of her grandchildren to us. But it was a really nice presentation. They did a lot of work, prepping for it. A lot of material, a lot of information was disseminated. It was a lot to take in all at once. But beyond what they were teaching about actual board function, what I took away from it personally had more to do with my interaction with other board members there and a handful of superintendents that were there. And it really shed a lot of light on what a great situation we actually have here at Gateway. Some of the, I sent an email to the board, hopefully you guys read it. I don't know if Dr. Short saw it, but when you say the word budget to some of these other board members, I mean, the blood leaves the face. I mean, they are in desperate situations all around us. And for us to be sitting in the situation we are, I think that the current board, the new guys, we owe a debt of gratitude to the other 6 of you that have been here and worked through that budget for the last 2 years, the folks that were there before that to set us up to get us to where we are. And in addition to that, conversations, you over here, in between breaks, you talk about people, when they were discussing, the audit procedure. What do you think about your business manager? I don't know. I mean, there's a more distrust and mistrust and skepticism about administration and positions, and even on the boards themselves, that these board members don't trust each other in a lot of cases. They don't trust their superintendent. And across the board, I mean, Mr. Schott, I get nothing but accolades for you, Mrs. Crump, Dr. Short. The relationship I think that we have the privilege of sharing here, and as board members together, I think we need to keep that in perspective every once in a while. As ugly as it's going to get in this room every once in a while, I think that's a good baseline to come back to and realize that we're miles ahead of other districts around us. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sarucci.
I just wanted to publicly thank again all the companies and people that gave donations. I know we talked about it 2 weeks ago, but I don't want anybody who didn't listen to not know how appreciative we are of EduLink and to Bruce Tyson Associates, Spitzer, and Sleep Center of Pittsburgh. These donations are greatly appreciated. And I did have the privilege to go to the basketball game Wednesday, and it was so great to see how many students came out to support Alex Ring. And I just want to reiterate Val's sentiments that our hearts and prayers are with him and his family, and nobody beats a Gator, and we're going to continue to pray for him to just be restored to complete health, because nobody beats a Gator. So Alex, you have our full support and love and affection. Monday night is senior night for the Gateway hockey team. If anybody would like to come out at 8:20 at Center Ice and honor 6 seniors that we have that night. We'll be playing South Fayette. Again, that's at 8:20 at Center Ice in Delmont. And then, lastly, my heart is heavy too. Anytime I hear about a school shooting, it just makes you think of your own kids and your own students here and how much, we love and care about these kids. And even at my place of employment, you see how I get emotional about our kids? The questions have come up in discussions since the shooting. What are we doing to keep our kids safe? What are schools doing to keep their kids safe? And I can say without a doubt that Gateway is doing everything we can to keep our kids safe. And I want everybody to know that. And I thank the people who support our police force. They're doing a phenomenal job. We have great policemen on staff, and I know I love our police force. But I thank you for supporting them and getting the equipment they need, and I just want to publicly thank them for doing everything they can to keep our kids safe, because that's what it's about. That's why they are here. Our kids are our number one asset, and we'll do everything that we can to protect them. And I'm happy to say that I think that, Gateway is doing everything we can to accomplish that. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. George, you got something else?
Yeah, just one thing. I know Rick didn't mean to forget the other two favorite Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Shaky and Dr. Rossi. They're
I didn't mention, I was talking a
Okay.
bit of smack on some of our
Okay.
administration. But clearly they were the target.
But they're also the backbone of this school. Thank you.
Thank you, George, for pointing that out.
George. Mr. Dice, do you have anything for us this evening?
I don't believe so.
Mr. Short, Dr. Short.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Again, to reiterate Dr. Kalstein's comments about School Board Recognition Month. Administratively, we talk about, communication, commitment, and trust. And those have always been what we stand for as administrators when working with 9 members of the communities of Monroeville and Pitcairn. You have entrusted us with the work to protect our children, but also be fiscally responsible to the constituents that make up our communities. And we are very proud and honored to work for this district. And I wish to personally thank each and every one of you, because as Jesse mentioned, it is a lot of time, it's a lot of information, and it's decisions that have to be made concerning a $75 million budget. And with that, and there's a lot at stake, and we want to make sure that we offer the best education for our children. And I think that we have been able to accomplish that in facilities that are second to none as we continue to upgrade those. So I thank each and every one of you. It's a commitment that's overwhelming at times, and I understand that the time that you give up away from your family is meant to really enhance the Gateway School District and the 3,500 students that attend. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much. Also, last week I attended Forbes Road, a vocational technical meeting, and I am happy to say that we have a number of students who have been honored with various awards at the Skills USA competition. I'm going to read their names rather quickly. I won't go over the programs that they're in, but Emma McFarland, Gateway student, Nicole Rossetti, Shane Poole, Hallie Gardner, Hannah Shiflett, Cameron Moore, Dale Williams, Sierra Lasada, and Elena Caruso. Congratulations to all your work and effort in advancing on to the Skills USA competition. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. I'll have to agree with what Jesse said, Mr. Short said, and Rick.
That's for sure.
Dr. Short. I'm never going to get it. You'll always be Mr. Short to me.
Just Bill.
I'm glad that somebody else saw the shape of other school districts compared to Gateways. Since I've been on the school board, there's been board members, we don't always get along, maybe in the boardroom, but the one thing we do have in common is they care for your kids, our kids. They care for them. They want nothing but the best. And outside the boardroom, we're able to still be friends and get along. Even though we might not always agree in this room, we can still leave here and still speak to each other, which says volumes. And I'm glad Rick and Ryan, you could see that Gateway compared to other schools is in great shape right now. Not super straight, we're in great shape compared to other schools with our budget, and that has a lot to do with the members on this board and the administrators here. And hats off to everybody that was involved in that, past and present. So when you go out there, hold your head high, because we are so lucky and so fortunate to be staffed with the individuals we have, and you guys should be happy with the board we have and the previous boards to be in the shape we're in. And I just want to say thank you to our staff and my fellow board members for that. And that's all I have tonight. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.
Second.